Insect protein is the new buzzword in animal feed circles these days, and all bets seem to be on the black shoulder fly, which has shown the most promise so far. We all heard how Innova Feed in France has opened the largest black shoulder fly protein production site in the world, with a capacity of 15,000 tons. So, this trend is here to stay and is taking root especially in Southeast Asia, where several startups have received funding to take the idea commercial. To take a closer look at the ground situation, my colleague Zahra Imtiaz will be talking to Nathan Preteseille, an independent consultant and co-founder of Asean Food and Feed Insect Association, popularly known as AFIYA. AFIYA brings together industry and research stakeholders from the insect sector to work on taking insect protein mainstream. Given all the publicity surrounding this area, Nathan will help us understand what the ground situation looks like for insect protein in Asia, and how soon can we expect this alternate protein to enter our feed formula.
Hi, Nathan. How are you? Thank you for joining us
Hello.
today.
Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you. So to start off with, could you give us a background of the current status of the insect protein, especially black soldier fly market in Southeast Asia?
Right, I'll try to be as comprehensive as possible. So Southeast Asia has been known as a cradle of the insect farming sector, originally with food applications and especially cricket farming in Thailand. I think has been a key starting place for the farming industry of insects. Now, in the last years, in line with the global development of insect farming, with feed application, and especially with the black soldier fly larvae, we've seen an increasing numbers of companies establishing in Southeast Asia, starting with, I'll think of Malaysia as a place where a number of companies have definitely developed, and more recently Thailand. Vietnam has actually also been part of the pioneers in setting up BSF companies, and we see also now, I think, the spread and the development of the industry all around Southeast Asia. Well, in terms of, if I can complement a bit on market size, this is something that is still a bit difficult to estimate and account for. As AFIYA, there is no available production data available, as there's still some lack of standardization in terms of trade codes to be able to really monitor the current production and trade of insect protein. Though we clearly see an increase, a scale up of the companies and an increase in production reaching, I think, relevant amounts for the feed industry.
So which of these countries you mentioned are ahead of the competition, or are they at an advanced stage at least?
For Southeast Asia, I'll think that Malaysia is pretty ahead with already several companies with years of experience, with commercial scales, and a real level of industrialization, with black soldier fly larvae production. As we have seen recently in the news, in Europe, there is also a strong development. But for the Asian part, I will consider Malaysia and, to some extent, Vietnam ahead in terms of development of the industry.
Okay, and since you mentioned Europe, we also see from Europe there's a lot of backing coming in terms of fly genetics and breeding programs that are kind of complementing these companies in Asia. So how do you see this helping or not helping the sector? Will it restrict entry to only companies that can afford genetics?
No, I think it's a normal step towards the development of the industry. The more it goes, the more we have to go deeper in the detail of the production, in the knowledge of the production and the industry. I think it will overall help the industry not only to develop specific breeding program, but to completely understand the genetic diversity of the different strains of black soldier fly, depending on their, let's say, strengths and when they are selected, their potential to get selected in breeding programs, but also in terms of geography. We have already seen several publications reporting the genetic diversity and the effect it may have on performance and fitness of the strain. So this is, I think, something that will help the overall development of the sector.
And I'm guessing speed up the process of industrialization of this insect.
Well, we will see definitely some support to the improvement of the sector by some selection and some breeding programs applied to the insect industry, though we don't want to lose the biodiversity potential of the different strains and the many advantages it may have also to have a specific diversity based on different geography. Some might be more adapted to certain climates, environments, and farming conditions. So this is something we have to get engaged with, but in a careful way, not to lose diversity as well.
Okay. So, and when it comes to these companies that you're talking about, especially in Southeast Asia, a lot of them have come into this sector. A lot of them have received funding for research. If you were looking at your own members at AFIYA, how many have moved to the next phase of actually setting up plants in Asia?
Giving a precise number will be difficult, but definitely since the creation of AFIYA back in 2016 with about 10 members, a lot of entrepreneurs just setting up pilot plans, eventually having received business angels support. Now we have seen for the members that are part of AFIYA, first of all, an increase in number of members, but also an increase in their size, having at least several tens of employees, and having raised funding at least in Series A and even beyond that for several of them, and particularly with black soldier fly larvae production, for which, as the animal feed sector is the main target, there is a need of scale up pretty quickly. So the members we have in AFIYA now are much more stable, established, and at a real scale of industrialization. And I think most of the BSF actors that we have been able to secure funding at Series A level or even beyond that.
So, and do you think we also can, like Innova Feed recently established a very big site for insect protein production. Do you think we can see something like that happening in Asia soon?
I think it is possible. I mean, the source of substrate on which the black soldier fly larvae will be grown are multiple, very diverse, and a lot of potential in Southeast Asia. So this is something that definitely can happen. But it may also happen maybe in a less centralized way with different possibilities where you can have one breeding center with several production sites, maybe producing at a lower scale than what we see with Innova Feed, I think at around 15,000 ton. We might see something a bit lower size in the region, but maybe with centralized breeding centers again and production sites at different areas that will be close to the waste streams and substrate streams. That will also make a lot of sense.
Why would that make, what is the advantages having of such a system? Like, why is it better, you think?
I wouldn't say maybe that Asian companies necessarily will go for that compared to European companies, but I would maybe consider that this will also be a relevant model compared to the what appears to be the Innova Feed model of only one production site with one waste stream. And I think as we see and as we have seen the development of other livestock industries or aquaculture industries, the split of certain parts of the production chain can make a lot of sense as well. And then in terms of substrate access, maybe it's a bit more or let's say a bit less concentrate in terms of the access to the substrate for the black soldier fly in the region. So to that regard, it could make sense to have different production sites and more centralized breeding sites, let's say.
Okay, so and then the question comes as to, can these producers meet the necessary market volume to be profitable? I mean, this is always a concern when it comes to insect meal. So do you think, do you see any promise in that area?
Well, definitely there's a real economy of scale in there. By scaling up, companies will be able to get a return on investment. And this is, I guess, goal of most of the producers with the black soldier fly larvae. Of course, there are many different production models, so one can be profitable at a small volume when the other will not be, because the investment is much higher to automatize, for example, the production. So I think there is maybe some more flexibility in Southeast Asia for a diversity of production models. Based on environmental condition, based on regulatory environments, that may make it profitable at a potentially smaller scale than what could be seen in Europe. And I think that we start to see, especially recently, industrial production sites that are going at the level of thousands of tons of insect protein powder a year, which I think are matching with the requirement of the feed industry.
This is coming out of Asia, is it?
Yes.
Okay. So, and then the question from the livestock producers side and the feed manufacturers side, what kind of concerns do you see arising from them, and when it comes to adoption of the insect meal, and how can insect protein companies address these concerns?
Well, I will say it is pretty much similar to the addition of any new ingredients to the feeds of animals. You'll need to convince first of the performance of the products. Whenever it has a target of replacement or complementing anything else, there will be the need to prove that this is relevant to be used. So feed trials make a lot of sense, particularly at local level with local businesses and farmers already established. In terms of safety, of course, we have to be very clear that we are using clean sources of substrates that are not going to lead to any contamination of the insect ingredients, and that this is safe. And to that regard, I think joining forces in an organization like AFIYA can help to define guidelines and standards and good practices to be followed by all the actors in the industry, and to be more trusted by the food and feed chains, I'll say. Yeah, those are maybe the two major concerns, being ensuring the performance and ensuring the safety of the products. And there are several ways we can work with that.
So have you come up with these guidelines? Are you all working on it? Standards?
We are definitely working on it, though at the moment we haven't developed something on our own at Asian level. But this is definitely a topic of concern, and it can focus at many different steps of the industry, from the breeding to the processing. At the moment, I believe the European Union has been quite ahead with the development of guidelines, and especially with the European Association IPIF and their good hygiene practices, which is used as a good baseline for the good hygiene practices to be followed by our members. Though we believe that there is a real relevance to have our own guidelines in the region, with the diversity of members, scales, and stakeholders we have, and to make sure we grow as a whole industry.
I mean, what are the challenges to coming up with a central standard for Asia? Like, what are the challenges that you all are looking at?
Well, maybe that will get back to the position of AFIYA. I mean, we started at Southeast Asian level, and we now try to englobe the whole Asia with members also beyond Southeast Asia, including Japan, for example, or even Australia. And so, in our context, not like in the European Union, where you have a central organization generating food safety standards that are usually adopted by all the 27 members. In Southeast Asia, this is pretty much different between all the different nations in the region. So the big deal there is to find something that will be possibly adopted by the actors in the whole region, even though they are in very different regulatory conditions.
Okay, so finally, what would you like to say about AFIYA, and what is the next step for you all? What is in store for your future?
Well, there are many things we can say, because there are many things we can do to support the industry development. I believe that the image of aquaculture, that is 90%, I think 90% of aquaculture production is in Asia and Southeast Asia. I believe Southeast Asia will also be in the future a real hotspot for insect production. I mean, the diversity of insects that are locally present, that are already consumed, and the history of insect production and consumption is really important to develop the sector in the region. And I think even though yet with AFIYA we are still a relatively small association, I think we have a real potential to lead the industry forward in the region. And as we talked about it, one of the key priorities is to develop comprehensive guidelines for our members and for the stakeholders in Southeast Asia.
Yeah. Okay. I suppose encouragement from Europe and the developments that are happening in Europe is also a kind of impetus for you guys here. Do you think it's
Yes, it is. It is definitely great to see such momentum being growing worldwide, and we are happy to collaborate with the other international association, as we have done already in the past, on transversal topics such as animal welfare in insect farms, which has been definitely a topic of concern, and for which we had some statement of joint position between the European Association, IPIF, the American Association, and ASEA, the Australian one, IPAA, and us, AFIYA. Yeah.
It's very interesting. If you say animal welfare for insects in farms, like how does that work?
Right. So at the very moment, there is no specific regulation applying to animal welfare in farms, but we are taking the approach of following all the let's say welfare guidelines that apply to other animals, meaning that in terms of rearing condition, which they should be in let's say in a comfortable condition that mimics as much as possible their natural behavior. And in terms, for example, of slaughtering the insects, we do not want to have any unnecessary suffering in terms of the killing. There is still, I mean, I think there is no exact consensus on the level of perception of potential pain the insect will be feeling, for example. But we definitely already have a consensual approach on the fact that we try to prevent any potential pain should they even feel it.
Okay, so basically you guys are preempting any future concerns that might arise from this area by dealing with it already.
Yes, but we have already heard from the consumer side this kind of concern, and this is actually something we do understand. For example, we have seen from the vegan community actually an interest in the consumption of insects. It always depends why you are vegan. And in this regard, we have had definitely concern regarding animal welfare and insect farms, and this is something we take very seriously.
Okay, that's quite interesting. Thank you, Nathan, for coming on our show and explaining this to us. And good luck with AFIYA and everything you're doing.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. So there you have it. The insect space in Asia is moving fast, and soon it may be a viable alternative in the livestock industry. Thank you for listening, and you can check out more of our podcasts on our website www.asian-agribiz.com. This is Zara signing off for Asian Agribiz.